Hey guys, Kyle here. I just wanted to pop in with a quick little message that we recorded today's podcast about 20 minutes before the Flyers announced the upcoming playoff roster. So we don't have that news here. We did talk about the roster and the fact that we probably won't be getting them, but we got them. And Oscar is on that roster, and we talked about the possibilities and what that could mean kind of during the show. But I did want to let you guys know that we recorded this show right before that news was available. So it's a little out of date, but we did see it right after we recorded. Oscar's on the roster, as well as Igor Zamula, and there's a couple other little names there, and we'll talk about that next week. But for now, enjoy the show. We are back. You're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington. Joining me today, oh boy, we have a special one. Starting out, we do have, as always, Mr. Kevin Durso.
How's it going, everybody?
And we are also joined by Dom Console, who's been here before.
What's up?
And we have a third guest. And this guest has been on the show before during one of our brackets. He is not a Flyers fan, but I figured since we're talking about all the play-in matchups today, he'd be a good guy to bring on. He is known on YouTube as Thrash94Gaming. Thrash, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And when I say YouTube, I do mean YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. We'll make sure everybody gets
OnlyFans, yeah, all of it.
Oh, Jesus. We'll make sure everybody gets their plugs before we get out of here. Make sure to follow the show everywhere. You know, You Would Think. Look it up, YWT Podcast. You all know the drill at this point. And make sure to find us on sportstalkphilly.com as well. So we got a lot to get into today. And the main story is the playoff predictors. We got some play-in matchups. We got some really, really fun series. And then there's, the Florida Panthers. But we'll get there. Now, before we get into things, Kevin, I believe there was a little bit of news here. The team just left at time of recording.
Yeah, the team is leaving pretty much as we're recording the show on Sunday morning. So the Flyers just tweeted out about 40 minutes ago, wheels up to Toronto. They're on their way. We don't completely know who's on the plane, per se. They didn't tell us the final roster yet. And there was a rumor that was supposed – or not rumor, but I guess there was an expectation it was possibly going to come out on Saturday evening. That never happened. The last thing I got that I saw was Bill Meltzer tweeted at about probably 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock last night that it's not coming tonight. So we're standing by. Probably by the time you're listening to this, we'll know the answer. But
maybe
we might find out in the next however long we're on recording this. So we might find out very shortly. But I guess the thing I want to bring up about that is the potential for one person in particular to be on that plane.
That's what I was going to ask.
Who we did not think was going to be on that plane maybe a week ago.
I was going to ask if that's why maybe the roster hasn't come out yet, because it might have a surprise name on it, honestly.
I had
a given the conversations.
I saw that on my phone. I saw it on Twitter the other day, I was like, wait, what?
Dom, are you aware of what's happening?
If it's who I think it is, then yes, but I don't want to sound stupid. So
let's hear you. Let's hear you what you think it is. What do you think happened here, Dom?
Is it Oscar?
It is Oscar.
It is Oscar Lindbaum.
Yeah.
So we heard this week, Oscar Lindbaum signed his contract extension immediately after last week's show, of course, because that's how things work here. He signed a 3-year extension, $3 million a season. We've heard that the salary cap is going to stay fairly flat for the next 3 years. So it's a good move for both team and player to get some cost-controlled production, because Oscar was, the team's leading scorer when he got his diagnosis. And it's definitely nice to see him locked up for the next 3 years at that kind of price. And Chuck Fletcher said he hopes that's the smallest contract Oscar Lindbaum ever signs the rest of his career, and I have a feeling it's going to be. But then shortly after that, news came out that Chuck Fletcher said they're not ruling out Oscar Lindbaum, traveling to Toronto to be with the team as part of the 52-person allotment allowed by the league to be in the bubble. Mm-hmm. But he might make the roster. And that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane to me that he might play in the playoffs after just destroying Cancer's entire existence. It was fantastic.
Right. And I mean, first of all, I mean, and I touched on this one. I mean, I had a spot on 97.3 this week, and I touched on the first thing that I think of when I think about this is great for him. He got the contract, because when you're at 11 goals and you're at 30, almost 30 points, or at 30 points exactly, or whatever it was in 30 games,
Right.
and you're on your way, I mean, it's going to be a career year. You're breaking out as a future key contributor to this team. And then this happens, the diagnosis happens, and you're done.
Yep.
And your year's done, and it's a contract year. And there's no, I mean, not no reason, but you go, almost what could happen with that contract situation? You were on your way to having a career year. Who knows what's going to be? And now where does it go? And he gets rewarded, because I think he got rewarded even more than for the on-ice contributions, for the way that the team rallied around him off the ice. And the fact that that turned this team around in a totally different way, because they just bonded in a totally unique way. So right away, I'm going, great for him. He got the contract because he deserved it. Then I hear the comments from Chuck Fletcher, and it was funny, because the question was phrased, this is like, surely this isn't possible. Like, he might go, but he's not gonna play, right?
There's no way,
and,
right?
And Chuck Fletcher goes, absolutely, I'm not ruling anything out. And I kind of tried to downplay it earlier this week on the air, because I'm like, don't expect it. Maybe is what I'm trying to say. Don't expect it, because if you say, oh my goodness, he said he's going to play, and you take it as gospel, then I think you're going to get disappointed, possibly. Yeah. Like, there's a possibility for it. But that being said, I say nothing's impossible with this guy. I think impossible with Oscar Lindbaum.
And I think the most important thing, not important thing, but the most outstanding thing about it is he's 23 years old. He's not 50 or 60 years old where okay, you're prepared for what's going to happen. He's a professional athlete at 23 years old that's on top of the world. I mean, obviously he wasn't making as much money as he will be with this new contract, but still, I mean, you're a professional athlete on top of the world.
He was doing just fine.
Old,
yeah.
Right? And he was having a career year, like you were saying, and just to be hit by this and have such a turnaround so quickly, it's amazing.
Right. We talk about the physical of him playing, but just the mental turnaround of him this season. Think about the season for him, right? Again, he's riding high, contract season. He's doing career year stuff. Boom, diagnosis. He's out for months and months and months. Boom. Now there's a glimmer of hope that he can play again this season. The emotional roller coaster he's gone on this season has to be incredible. We talk about what the cancer does physically, and the treatments that he goes through, and it ravages his body,
even mentally.
Shape. But the mental war is just as big a part of it. Anybody who's been through cancer will tell you that the mental is maybe not equally, but it's definitely up there in terms of how much of the battle it is. And it certainly seems, no matter whether he's physically able to go next week, it certainly seems like he's mentally able to go. Whether he's in shape to get on the ice and play a full playoff game and be where he needs to be, that remains to be seen. And we can't expect that out of him after 7 months off the ice. But it's really, really encouraging. And I like knowing that the Flyers now have access to this player for the next 3 years, the maturity with which he handled this, and the absolute, we've used the word warrior, and we've used the word, I think whatever words we've used to describe Oscar, this is a great contract. It is a great contract. That's the end of it, right? We talk about what he brings to the room, just in terms of the story and the uplifting and the rallying cry here. Hashtag Oscar Strong. We've been all about it. Our show's logo has been purple for 6 months. And it's nice to know that this team has access to this guy over the next 3 years, who also, by the way, was on an 80-point pace.
Yeah, he just seems like a really great dude too.
He is a really great dude.
I imagine he is. Yeah, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, but he seems like a fantastic person. And I'm happy that Oscar Lindbaum is a part of this organization, and I am happy that I will be able to say he's part of the organization for the next couple of years. Yeah,
and Kyle, I've talked about before. I've had a chance to interact with him a couple of times. He is a great guy. He's everything you think he is off the ice. He's exactly what you think he is. And he just loves the game. He really just loves the game. And, I don't think the first thing you think of is the value of the contract and who wins the sides or anything like that. I mean, they could have handed him $6 million a year, and you would have turned around and said,
that's
sure,
perfect.
Fine, whatever. It doesn't matter. You gave him a contract, and you should have given him a contract.
Yeah.
But
they definitely didn't have to.
Right. But I think they also, there was definitely a clear, and by the way, I think one of the other things that was really encouraging that kind of gets overshadowed because Chuck Fletcher said, gee, there's a possibility nothing's off the table with him. But he did turn around and say, got this done in 2 or 3 phone calls. That's it.
It was quick.
It was 2 or 3 phone calls and we were done. It was a very easy negotiation, and he just wants to play. And he mentally, because of everything you guys are saying, mentally he is ready to go because of the fact that as soon as he walked out of that doctor's office, as soon as he rang the bell,
they got the contract done.
Well, not even just that, but it was his first response to it was, now I want to just know when I can get back.
Get me in shape.
If I'm done this part of it, I want to know when I can come back. And that's all he's focused on.
He seemed like such a humble guy before this, and how it humbled him even more. It's incredible.
The only knock I have against the kid is that if he plays, he'll probably take Joel Farabee's spot, and I really want Joel Farabee to play in these playoffs because I think he's going to be really.
You know what?
Good.
You don't know that completely though, because I think they're really high on Joel Farabee. All the coaching staff is really high on him, and it's funny. It was funny to hear Joel Farabee classify himself as a bubble player, because whether that's his own mentality saying I've got to fight for everything I'm going to get here at 19 years old, or the idea that, or just the idea that that really is the case and he's one of the first guys who's going to fall out whenever somebody else goes in, whether it's that or whether it's just his own mentality saying, I can't take the spot that I have for granted. I still think I like him over a couple of different guys probably in the lineup at this point.
I agree. And in terms of roster fighting, there's really not a ton. It certainly looks – the Flyers were actually fairly healthy when the season paused, minus Oscar and, Nolan Patrick and blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, the Flyers were pretty healthy when the season paused. And that lineup is mostly just going to carry over into the playoffs as far as I can tell.
Right.
So in terms of roster battles, there really wasn't much. We have people missing days of practice here and there. And, Carter Hart missed a day and he was back. And Jake missed a day and he was back. And, I did want to mention that Sean Couturier missed a day.
He missed a couple. Yeah,
he missed a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I was not aware that his wife was pregnant. And they had his first child a couple days ago, and Sean Couturier is a father, so we wanted to wish him a happy birthday here from You Would Think. There you go. Did you know? I didn't know.
I didn't know it until this week when it was, hey, something's going on.
And Coots isn't going to be right.
Right. Like, okay. But nonetheless, it's funny you bring the whole thing up though, because just about everybody who missed a day during the entire phase 3, the Flyers never had any single day where it was
everybody.
Not even everybody, but what's going, especially, in this current time we're in where everybody's watching out for illnesses. It was Jake Voracek had a test get delayed, so he sat out for 1 day, came back, told his side of the story, said, that's it, and I'm back. Done. Okay. Carter Hart pulls himself from a scrimmage because he feels something, and we don't know specifically what, but he feels something precautionary, takes 2 days off. One of the days, by the way, that he was considered off, he comes on the ice after the practice and still skates, even though he wasn't in the actual practice. So that's a little bit hard. Like, to say he was unable to participate, but then took his own session is a little bit, that's
I don't think he was able to participate. I think he chose not to participate.
Right. No, I don't think he chose. I think they chose and said, you're not going on for a scrimmage 2 days after you pulled yourself from a scrimmage. You're just sitting this one out. And then what were the other absences? I think Connor Bunneman and Kirill Ustimenko missed 1 day of practice, and we never even found out what it was, and they were back the next day. This team has gone through 2 weeks of phase 3 camp where everything is on the table when it comes to possibilities of being out and not knowing any information.
And you know what?
Never had anything come up except for the Carter Hart thing, which only lasted 2-3 days.
And you know what? You just said their wheels up to Toronto, so I feel safe saying that, right? We've made it through the Philadelphia portion of camp. Anything that was going to happen in Philadelphia has happened.
Well, look, there was a lot of good news league-wide about this whole thing. You've got players in 24 cities trying to work out, trying to avoid bringing the virus into the picture so you derail the whole process, right?
And I believe the NHL went several days with 0 positive tests.
Well, here's what it was. So the first week of camp, from the 13th of July through the 17th, they had 2 positive tests out of 800-something players. And they give us that rounded number. Oh, it's more than 800. So that's all we know. They didn't tell you how many tests they issued over the course of the last week, but as of Thursday night, They came out, they're trying to run down their not return plan, but this is what the city's going to look like. This is what players will be able to do. This is where these guys are staying. This is where these guys are staying. This is how this is working. And they throw out that little tidbit on top of it that goes, hey, you know what? The entire week so far, nothing, no positives around the league. And there you go. So if you had 2 from one part of the week, or from 1 week, roughly, then the weekend hit, and so far in the previous week, you're going, we had none. So 2 over the course of the entire 2 weeks, and now you're going to the bubble?
And you weren't in the bubble, right?
So
I think you've got it figured out.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
I think, Kevin, you'd probably be able to answer this a little bit more. But so I think it was either the MLB or the NBA where they said they wouldn't announce if somebody had tested positive.
Right.
So what are they doing
The
with
NHL
the NHL
also
with
said
that? Okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how they were going about it.
What they do is they tell you a number of here's how many tested positive, but they never tell you team or player. And basically, here's the thing. I wrote about it a little bit too when it came to the Carter Hart stuff, because Jake Voracek misses a day of practice.
Right.
They tell us he's unable to participate. So cue the speculation, right?
By the way,
where do we go with this? What is it? What happened to him?
And by the way, that's the terminology is unfit to participate. Is
right.
The terminology the league is using for all injuries, all illnesses, everything under the umbrella, so that you don't know who's sick and who's hurt. Everybody's under the same umbrella.
Right.
Unfit to participate.
And as you would expect, so Jake Voracek misses the scrimmage on Saturday, the previous Saturday, and Alain Vigneault gets asked about it and goes, well, I'm not able to tell you.
He's
Sorry.
He's unfit to participate.
He's just unable to participate. He literally sits there and said, and his response was, whatever Chuck Fletcher sent in the memo, that's what you can know. Sorry.
That's what I'm allowed to tell
you. So they move on. Jake Voracek shows up at practice the next day. Okay, so now some of the speculation is over, because we can sit there and then at that point safely assume, well, he's not sick. So what was it? Right, because he wouldn't be allowed back in the building if he was sick yesterday. So we know he's not sick, so what is it? And he does his interview after that practice and says, player privacy is important, but if you guys want to know, just ask. I'll tell you. So, of course, somebody asks the question. And when they ask the question, he tells them, yeah, my test got delayed, then it was inconclusive, so I had to take another one, and it came back negative. That's why I'm here. So when Carter Hart misses a practice and then doesn't go in front of the media to be able to tell us, and granted, look, he did later on after his first practice back and did not say what the injury was, so he chose to keep it close. But think about this. So far, as far as I know anyway, I can think of, off the top of my head anyway, I can think of 3 players in the league who told everybody by speaking to the media, I had it.
Who have disclosed positive.
Yeah. Austin Matthews said he had it. Caleb Jones for Edmonton said he had it. And most recently, the one I remember is Corey Crawford just came out yesterday and said, I had it.
I believe Jacob Chikrin also did.
He might have, yeah. And
here's
another one though for you. So Tuukka Rask for Boston has been in and out of practice for a while, and he told reporters on Tuesday, I have a small fracture in one of my fingers in my catching hand. But he said what his injury was. So the player is allowed to come to the media and say, this is what I'm dealing with, just so you know.
And players
I don't care if you know. Right.
And I think players have done that more freely than they otherwise do, right? Because Tuukka Rask would never come out and say, I fractured a finger in my catching hand, especially if he was continuing on playing.
Right.
It's just crazy that
and even
this veil of secrecy has actually led to more transparency.
Well, so to speak. I mean, there's debates about this throughout, because there's certain media who are not going to the bubble because they, like, the league wants to polish off the stories before they can even put them out. So, like, the idea that you're going to get this, hey, look at this behind the scenes look at the league in the bubble, but wait, we're going to filter it through the NHL.com whole deal. So it's the league's writers who are coming in, and it's not regular media. So we're all getting, like, so in other words, all the other media are on a level playing field.
I'm gonna praise the league from a presentation standpoint, but we can get to that a little later on in the show.
I do think that looks pretty decent. I want to see it in action though too.
I do want to get into our playoff bracket, but if we have time, we'll squeeze that conversation in at the end.
Sure.
But before we get to the bracket, Thrash, who are the Red Wings bringing to the bubble?
So here's the thing. Thanks for having me on. I'm leaving. I'm done.
Yeah.
Listen, man, you guys had your success.
Yes.
You got to take a little bit here.
You know, the thing is, I forget who it is who I talked to with at work, but they're always making fun of me. Always, look at the Wings. They suck. He's a Leafs fan.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, but like, have you ever seen your team win a cup? No. You see
Well,
a team
yeah, right.
past the first round in the last how many years? No.
That actually
You know,
transitions
like-
us really nicely into our first series, because the
Oh,
first
boy.
series we're going to talk
Oh, boy.
about is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Uh-oh.
Now, before we get into this one, I do want to remind our listeners that these are best of 5. So all you need to do is win 3 games.
Yeah.
Now, do you know how the home away layout's going to be for this, Kevin? Is it going to be 2-2-1?
I believe so. Yeah, I'm
Or
gonna
are they
do.
just gonna
I'm gonna do a
alternate
quick.
every
dou-
game
I'm
because
doing
they
a
just
quick double
can?
check on that for you, but I believe that was the case because I'll be able to find it really quickly.
They
So
might just
all right.
alternate every game because
So,
they can.
hold on, these are the exhibitions. Sorry,
Okay,
I was gonna
that's
say
not-
I'm looking at
there's
something weird.
travel.
All right. So like, okay,
Right, there's no
so
travel.
Carolina.
Yeah.
So Carolina, like, not to shift to a different series, but the first one that comes up, the first game of the actual tournament, so to speak, is
Right.
Carolina Rangers.
Okay.
That's the first game 1 that happens on August 1st.
And I imagine Carolina
Carolina
will
is
be
the home
in
team
that
in game
one,
1. Carolina is the home team in game 2. They're off for a
I
couple
imagine
days
it's
there. Hold on.
Rangers.
Rangers have game 3 hosting. They also are. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Is this supposed to be game 5? It's not telling me.
Is this the NHL app?
Yes, I'm
'Cause
going.
the
to
NHL
yes.
app,
Okay. So game
the
5
NHL
goes.
app schedule is atrocious.
Yeah, I know. Well, no. Somehow or other, I skipped a Ranger Hurricane game in there. But
Okay.
yes, game 5 goes back to the Hurricanes as the home team. So it's
Okay, so it looks like it's 2-2-1. Okay, that's good to know. So we're getting into this series, and in the first series we're talking about, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Freddie Anderson against the Columbus Blue Jackets. How do we think that's going to go? Let's start with Kevin here. What do you got to say about this one?
This is it's a tough one. It's going to
Yeah.
be probably one of the closest ones out of the matchups that are there, I think. I'm leaning Toronto because I think Toronto is going to have more firepower on special teams, especially the power play. I think when you factor all those guys in, Columbus
We're
is
going
going
to see a lot of scoring.
Here's the thing. Columbus is going to get healthy, obviously. They've had the time to heal up with all the injuries they had at the end of the
They're adding
at the
Josh
end of the
Anderson back,
regular
which is
season.
huge.
Yeah, Josh Anderson's coming back. You've got Cam
That's a
Atkinson.
big
who's
deal
there.
for a playoff series.
Bjorkstrand, I believe, is back. You know, all these guys who were out at that time. You know, Seth Jones, all of them, and your goalies too. You know, Korpisalo should be back, and Merzlikins is still there. Obviously, he was kind of on the mend, I think, toward the end of that regular season thing too. He had a little bit of he was really keeping him hanging on by a thread there as the pause hit. The thing that interests me, and I don't know, because I saw a comment on it that says this could be stancing and this could be like legitimate. And it's that John Tortorella did not speak to the media after one practice, and the idea was that he's not thrilled with the way that they look. Now, that's why they said could be a stance thing where you're going, I'm trying to make it seem like I don't like the way they're working. I'm trying to motivate, and that's all it's for. But I think there might be actually something to that because I don't think that because they're not the most talented team on paper, that I think that maybe, I don't know if the pause will hurt them in that angle. Like there's going to be something to be said for Toronto's, hey, look at our power play with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares. You know, the list goes on. And
So,
there's something to be said to that group. And if this turns in, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Columbus is not the most disciplined team.
No.
And that's going to kill them in this series.
And
That's
Josh Anderson coming back is not going to help that. So it sounds like you're going with the Leafs. How many games you got?
At least 4. I think maybe even 5. To be honest.
Think so?
I think it could go 5.
Okay, I'm not supremely impressed with Elvis Merzlikins as a goaltending option, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Dom, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to agree with Kevin. I think Toronto edges them out a little bit. I just think they're a little bit, at least on paper, a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be really close. Obviously, they're an 8 and 9 seed, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Toronto. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna go to 5 games too.
Game 5s will
be
be
a
fun.
lot. It's gonna be a lot of scoring. Yeah.
Game 5s are going to be fun, man.
Yeah.
All right. Now we'll bring it over to the resident Leaf fan here. Thrash, what do you think?
Why do you do this to me? Honestly, I don't mind the Leafs. I live in between Detroit and Toronto, right? So I've always watched the games, but like on paper, Toronto should win this in
2.
Yeah, it shouldn't be close.
1.5, really.
Yeah, but knowing Toronto, this is going to be an extended series.
Right.
I got to go Leafs. I love Gustav Nyquist, but I don't think he's the right replacement for Panarin. Let's be real here. And they don't have the team they had last year to do what they did against Tampa. So I'm going to say in 4, Toronto.
Okay. I'm going to just go out here and say Toronto in 3.
Yeah,
I think I'm just going to say it because that Columbus story that you were talking about, Kevin, by the way. So they had a real bad scrimmage Monday night, and it was so bad that during Tuesday's scrimmage, 15 seconds in, John Tortorella stopped the scrimmage, went on an expletive-laced tirade, and then restarted practice.
Okay.
So maybe they've recovered, and maybe that was what they needed, and maybe John got it out of his system. But I'm not.
I don't know. I think we're in for some fun with John Tortorella during this.
I would be willing to bet a large amount of money that we're in for some fun with John Tortorella. And I also think John Tortorella is the first person to get fined because of something he said on the mic. I guarantee.
Well, I mean, you heard what he said about the thought of before we found out that the present, and you're going to get into this later probably, but the presentation is going to feature a 5-second delay.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, like it's like his response to that, even like, oh, do you care if the mics pick up? And like his response even to that was already a sign of where things are going to go. Like
and if you expected John Tortorella to answer any other way, then you haven't been paying attention to who John Tortorella is.
I'll tell you what, he's a beauty for that reason. I'll tell you. I mean, indeed. I just love the honesty. He's
honestly
really honest.
I think I might be in the minority. I'm not crazy about him.
Really, I get
like
it.
Him. No, I think coaching wise, like I think he's a good coach, but like I don't know, he just kind of got like that punch the face kind of face, you know.
See, I'm the opposite.
Really?
I'm not really a fan of him as a coach. I don't see like all these accolades or anything right or coming out, but I love him as a person. I love watching him and hearing
he's entertaining as all get out.
That's exactly it.
Right. I probably felt the way that Dom feels, you know, mid to late 2000s, and over the course of some of the years, something about when he got to Columbus, something did shift in his approach to the media a little bit, where if you ask a good enough question, he gives you a detailed enough answer. But like he tries to say it when there's an interview where he said 90% of the things I say are not sound clip worthy, and you don't need to and they never get played over and over again. But there's that 10% that we hear all the time.
It's really, really good.
After the Vancouver press conference, don't push me, and whatever, things like that, shut your yap and stuff like that, like that one, like that's great, like stuff
He's
like that.
Really good. He's got some really, really good one-liners.
He does have some really good one-liners.
In addition to the long rants.
Yeah.
He's got some really quippy little lines. I don't have a clever transition. I'm not going to lie. I was going to try to make a clever little transition here, but we don't have one. Pittsburgh, Montreal. Thrash, let's start with you this time.
Your clever transition is that the head coach of the Penguins used to be one of John Tortorella's assistants.
Oh, was he? That makes sense.
Mike Sullivan was an assistant for John Tortorella for a long time. He's got
a punchable face, by the way.
He actually Tortorella had a press conference earlier this year during a pregame where he went to sit there and say, and he's doing an interview and he's talking about something. He goes, it must be a question about the defense or something. And he goes, you'll have to ask Sully. And then he goes, geez, Sully, he's not my assistant anymore. Whatever. Like, and he goes, I'm thinking about, when he was like that or whatever.
That's great. All right, Thrash. We're looking at Pittsburgh and Montreal now. We heard a lot about this series because Pittsburgh wasn't thrilled about having to play Carey Price in a short series. My conspiracy theory says that if Montreal loses, they're getting Alexis Lafreniere.
That's not a conspiracy. That's happening.
Well, yeah, but I also think that if
let's be real. That's just. It's not a conspiracy. It's literally. I mean, let's just give him Lafreniere.
But I also think that if Pittsburgh loses, they're the one getting Lafreniere.
See, can we just not have this series happen? Both teams just get eliminated. They get 30 and 31 for the picks, and they move on next year. I don't want to see either team win or lose. I don't want to see. I don't want to see it.
They might be the two most unlikable teams.
Do you want to play against the combination of Sidney Crosby, Alexis Lafreniere for the next 3 or 4 years?
I don't want to name those two people in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So think about that.
Either way, we got Carey Price against Matt Murray. We got Sidney Crosby against Philippe Deneau.
Yeah, see that.
Okay. Thrash, let's start with you here. How do you think this series goes?
I dislike both teams.
Correct. That's the correct answer. You're really good on this podcast. You can come back anytime you want, buddy.
I dislike both teams. Realistically, Pittsburgh should run them over. Looking at the two teams, I mean, it's not really a comparison. But
yeah, one of them has Sidney Crosby and one of them and Evgeny Malkin, and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, Price, if he's 8 years ago, is going to carry him. I don't know. I don't think Price is going to get it done the way he could have back then. But
he's healthy though.
He's healthy.
He's had 4 months off. He's fresh.
That's great. Give him one game, and what if he tweaks his knee?
I mean,
If something happens,
okay,
then the entire team is
that's
screwed.
tough because you can say that about any series, right?
Absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely. But when you're counting on your goalie, to be the lead, like the one that's going to shut down Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. If he has one off game, you're down one game.
You're right. You're
best
done.
Of 3 or best of 5. Sorry, you have to win 3. No, I don't like their chances at all. Pittsburgh in 4.
Pittsburgh in 4. Okay, Dom.
Yeah, definitely Pittsburgh here. I could see it going to 3, but maybe Montreal pulls out a win. Yeah, I agree. I got Pittsburgh in 4.
Montreal will win the first game.
Right.
Montreal will win the first game, shock everybody.
Oh, the Pittsburgh panic will be fantastic.
And then they'll show up. Pittsburgh will show up and be like, "Oh, yeah, right, hockey, okay."
All right.
And then
Sid will be like, "Oh, it's the playoffs, kind of."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got this. Never mind. Okay, Kevin, hit me.
I'll keep it brief because most of the points were made. I say Carey Price steals 1 game and Pittsburgh wins in 4.
Montreal in 5.
No.
Ooh.
No.
Montreal in 5.
I will say to Thrash's point though, if Montreal wins the first game of the series, then I think it goes 5.
They can steal a second game.
And then I still think Pittsburgh wins, but I think it goes 5 at that point.
Right, because all of a sudden that series turns from you got to beat them a bunch of times, so you got to beat them twice in 4 games. You only got to go 50-50 with them.
Right, but I still think Pittsburgh wins 3 of 4 from there, but I think that it goes the distance after that. Like, I think that if Montreal gets the first game, I think, like, I kind of see this either being
Montreal in 5.
I see this being, like, when I said Carey Price probably steals a game somewhere there, I can see it being either a game 2, game 3 thing. It either evens the series up at 1 or avoids the sweep. But I think Pittsburgh's going to win it.
Game 4, he robs Sid on a breakaway with 10 seconds left. And
well, I mean,
for Pittsburgh to ice the series.
Let's put it this way. When we talked about we've talked about it before, the Flyers Pittsburgh series of 2018, and we talk about Sean Couturier. Look at all Sean Couturier did on one leg, right, in the last 2 games of that series.
Imagine what he'll do with that.
Does anybody remember after Sean Couturier scored in Game 5 and gives them the lead on one leg?
I was there.
Michael Neuvirth made a save on Sidney Crosby at the side of the net. Yeah, no, I got that.
You didn't watch that series, Thrash? What's the matter? You didn't watch Game 5 of a Pittsburgh Flyers series from 2?
I did not. I will be honest.
No.
You didn't do your preparation for this podcast? What's wrong with you?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All I'm trying to say is
I'm going to go watch it now. Stop the podcast. I'm going to go watch it.
Yeah, right. All I'm trying to say from that is that if Michael Neuvirth can rob Sidney Crosby at the side of the net with under a minute to go in a Game 5 in a playoff series with the season on the line, then Carey Price sure as hell can do it. So that's where I see it. Like, I can see him stealing a game. And if it's the first one, I see it being a little bit of a challenging series.
Funny story. I was at Game 5 of that series. And if you go watch the NHL's mic'd up round 1 video of that series, you will see me. There's a shot of a ref who's mic'd up talking, and I'm sitting in the front row behind him on my phone. Maybe I'll have Mike tweet the picture out.
That's funny.
It's pretty fun.
I'll have to go look for it now because I do love those mic'd up series. And
I'll just
stuff,
send you the picture directly. It's fine.
Oh, that's perfect. That'll be great.
Okay, so I'm the only one who went Montreal here, so we'll see how our bracket challenge goes. We might do a bracket challenge once the qualifying round stops and we get into the actual playoffs. We might have something. So keep an eye on our Twitter at YWT Podcast. Moving along, we have a series that I do not care about in the slightest. We're looking at the New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers, and both teams are bad. Both teams could use Alexis Lafreniere. Dom, I'm sorry, but it's your turn to go first, buddy. What do you think about this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't really care for this either. I guess I have the Islanders. Maybe like in 4 or 5. I don't know.
That's about all you need to say. Yeah. Islanders maybe in 4 or 5. That's cool. Thrash, what do you got, buddy?
Well, wait. Actually, Florida will be used to playing with no fans in the stadium.
I was literally going to say.
So they might pull it out.
Yeah, I'm going Florida.
They have the no home field advantage.
Right.
They're used to it.
Okay.
Honestly.
Well, we heard Alexander Barkov at the NHL Awards a couple years ago. Oh, we have more Finnish people than people from Florida here. Hey, it's not wrong.
No, it's
no.
not.
Okay, so does that change your prediction, or what do you got?
I'm still going to go Islanders.
Okay, so Islanders in 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Okay, Thrash, let's go to you here.
I'm going Florida.
We're going Florida. Okay.
I'm going Florida in 4. I really like Florida as a team. They can't really seem to pull together, but I like the players like Aaron Ekblad. I like Huberdeau.
They have talent, right?
I love a lot of the players on the team. They just can't seem to put it together. Now, I don't necessarily think they'll be able to put it together in this playoff run, but for 3 games against the Islanders, I could see it I could see Barkov, pulling some magic, and the guys getting it done for at least 3 games. You know what I mean? Like they have, against the Islanders. Yeah, if it was Toronto we're talking about, then probably not.
If they were playing a real team, is what I'm hearing.
Playing a real team. But I'll say Florida in 4.
Okay. Kevin, anything here? We got 2 different answers now. It's time to break a tie.
Yeah, this is tough actually.
I think a lot of it depends on what Sergei Bobrovsky shows up.
That was one of my big X factors because I think because I think on paper Bobrovsky's better than whatever the Islanders are going to throw out there. I think that Florida has more skill players than the Islanders do. Like I don't qualify some of the Islanders guys as skill guys. I think they're very effective players, but I don't
past
say
Matthew Barzal and
past
maybe
Barzal,
Anders Lee and Brock Nelson, maybe. Who do you
Lee
have?
and Nelson, I think, are great players, but I don't find them as skill guys. Like
that's the closest.
Josh Bailey, former Windsor Spitfire. Josh Bailey, hello. Anyone?
I like Bailey. I do like Bailey a lot, and then I don't know. Like I almost because
he's no Flyers legend, Justin Bailey though.
Justin Bailey, who racked up more frequent flyer miles on the Pennsylvania Turnpike than anybody else ever did.
He got called up and sent down every other day.
He got called
for
up
like
and
a
sent
week and a
down
half.
from Lehigh Valley so many times in the course of 1 week. It was ridiculous.
It was so funny.
Like I look at some of the Islanders' depth too, and I go like I want to say like I usually like it. I just wonder how quickly it's going to be as effective when you come back. Like the guys on limited minutes, I think this is going to be really weird. Especially when you're coming back from a 4-month layoff and now you're in a limited role and you got to create your own energy like a lot of players have said. I think that's going to be weird. Like I look at that top line for Florida and I go, that's got some danger to it. That's Barkov, Dadonov, and Huberdeau could be really good, and I think that's something that's standing out to me.
This is also Joel Quenneville. Like, it's no joke in terms of they're going to be
got
ready.
Good coaching too. Well, it's
Joel Quenneville and Barry Trotz. This is
right.
great
coaching on both sides.
It's a great coaching matchup.
This is probably the most elite coaching matchup that's in the playoffs.
And it's the most the most like blah series.
I forgot something about this, about the Islanders. Completely forgot about it. They have Pajot.
They did get JG Pajot. Yeah.
I totally forgot it. Now that doesn't change my answer in any bit.
No,
right.
But like, I was looking through their roster. I'm like, wait, Pajot? Excuse me? When did that? Oh, right before. Yeah. Okay. Well, that doesn't change anything, I guess. But
no. I mean,
more firepower.
Even looking at the graphic, just like a bland orange against a bland
right. Like
color.
Even the colors on this graphic are terrible.
It's even a milk toast bracket. Like it's bad.
Yeah, really. I'm gonna say Islanders in 5, but this is probably the one on the east side of the bracket that I say has the biggest potential for the upset.
For the love of God,
lower seeding. For
the love of God, just give me somebody. I don't care who. Somebody in 3, so it ends quicker. I don't care who sweeps. I just want somebody to sweep. I think Sergei Bobrovsky is more likely to stand on his head for 3 games than whoever's playing goal in New York. Thomas Greiss probably.
Yeah. I'll probably be able to give you a sweep at some point. It's just not happening on this side of the bracket.
No, we'll get there. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
I'm
I know. I've got one that I can tell you
buddy.
I think is going 3.
I'm looking at least 2 that I think could end in 3.
Okay.
But we do have one more matchup in the Eastern Conference. And this one, I really think this series could be the most fun of the first round. Legitimately.
Yeah, this is going to be a good series.
We have the Carolina Hurricanes as the 6th seed facing the 11-seeded New York Rangers. I'm sorry. And we talked on last week's show about who's playing goal for the Rangers and who ends up playing, as the series kind of moves along. Carolina's got a deep defensive team. I think I'm gonna take the first prediction here. And let's break this down. Carolina, a good defensive team with some quality scoring power, right? You have Sebastian Aho, you got Andrei Svechnikov, Thrash, the brother, the good one.
Hey,
listen, between the two of them, we know which one's the good one.
He's not even in the NHL. Give him a shot. Maybe he might turn into something.
Yeah, it's because he's not in the NHL and he can't crack Detroit's roster.
This is his year, man. This is his year.
Okay.
He's been training for this year. All right?
Okay,
hold on a minute, because I know he can't crack Detroit's roster, but for the longest time, I had that thought with Philip Zadina, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to come right into the league. Why not? He's on a team that doesn't seem that he should be able to make right away, and they waited on him, and he's probably better off for it.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's just what Detroit does, though.
Yeah.
Either way, Carolina's goaltending is the only question mark here, right? Is Peter Mrazek Is Peter Mrazek good enough to take them to the Eastern Conference Finals? No, I don't think so. Is Peter Mrazek good enough to get them past the New York Rangers? Yeah, I think he can handle that. Right? Their defense is good enough. If they throw all their resources at Zibanejad, Panarin, who else is scoring for the Rangers? The series ends. There's nobody else there. They were trying to tank this year. They put out a letter last summer talking about how they're selling assets and they're going to be bad and they're tanking. They didn't even expect to be here. They sold at the deadline. Carolina's beating them in 4 at the most, and that's if one of the Rangers goalies steals a game for them. Kevin, let's go to you.
Wow. Okay. Earlier.
Sorry, I went
expected.
a little strong here.
No. Earlier than I expected. That's all. Because I don't know. Something about, and maybe there's a little portion of this is this piece of information that's hanging over Carolina right now that Dougie Hamilton's dealing with something. You lose a defenseman like that, and your goaltending is not necessarily the best in the world. I mean, they really went
good enough though.
Well,
even without Dougie,
they went well. Yeah, but let's put it this way. Dougie Hamilton's dealing with something. Brett Pesce isn't going to start playing right away either. Anytime, one of the things Alain Vigneault said during training camp or the Phase 3 camp that I totally buy into is at this time of year, knowing what you're going into, you miss any time, you're falling behind, and that's a concern. That's two really good defensemen for them. I mean, nothing, I love Jacob Slavin. I think he's a really solid defenseman too, but you're losing they built that defense really well. And there's something about, there's even something about the connection with Brady Shea being on the other side of this now than he was.
I forgot about that. I forgot he went to Carolina.
Then he was weeks before the pause happened. So
yes, that is
there's something funny about that.
J all right next to each other.
Yeah. I love
my
that.
favorite SNL bit of all time.
I love that.
Chance the Rapper is phenomenal. Sorry.
Here's where I'm at with this, because I think because Carolina's got the better coach, the more motivating coach, in my opinion. Or I like him better. They've got a counter to the Panarin-Zibanejad duo for the Rangers with Aho and Svechnikov. I think they're both really talented, and I really like watching them. Teravainen's really good, especially on the power play.
Show me a lacrosse goal in the playoffs. Do it.
Oh
do it.
God.
Do it.
If he goes for it, I'd be thrilled.
I will bet you any amount of money that he goes for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets it.
Yeah.
But he goes for it. And I think Elias Pettersson's going for it too. You heard it here first.
He's great for the game. He's great for the game, for how exciting he is to watch. I mean, I've got this series going long, probably 4 or 5 at least, maybe probably pushing 5. One of the biggest questions I have about the Rangers is probably who their goalie is. I don't know, because I don't know who it is yet. I mean, I think, I definitely don't think Lundqvist gives them the best shot anymore. I think you've got to go with somebody. And I don't know, you're going to throw either a rookie in Shesterkin, or you're going to throw somebody with very limited NHL experience in Georgiev in. That probably doesn't bode well. So I'm going to say Carolina in 5.
Carolina in 5. I like it. Dom, let's hit you here.
Okay, so here's the hard part. When we're picking these matchups, everything is like kind of on paper. Like, you like somebody on paper because obviously we've been gone for 4 months.
We have no idea what
we don't know. We
really don't know who's going to respond the same way.
That's the wild part about all of this, and we tried to set it up with a little bit of this insanity, but these teams are coming off of 4 months off, most of which you had no access to ice.
Yeah.
It's weird for sure.
Yeah. So, again, I'm going to have to say it. On paper, I like Carolina a lot more.
Are you going lightning in a bottle pick here?
What's that?
Are you going with a lightning in a bottle pick here?
It
certainly seems like it. Oh, baby.
No, I don't think I'm going to go 3. I don't think I'm going to pick 3 games, but I think it goes 4. I think the Rangers could steal one.
Okay. I thought you were predicting an upset here. It sounded like you were building an upset here. Rangers in 3 or something.
I think Aho, I think he's going to have – I think if they make the playoffs and go all the way through, I think he's going to have a big playoffs this year. I don't know why. I just have a feeling.
Okay. I think that's a real possibility, and I think Sebastian Aho should be a bigger star in this league.
Right.
Given his production, he's been absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. No question.
I think he should be a much bigger name, and I think the fact that he plays in Carolina, and I don't believe his English is fantastic. I think both of those things are kind of what's limiting him from a North American standpoint. Thrash, what do you think about this series? We got Carolina and the Rangers. It's a lot of fun.
Carolina in 3.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Domination here. Even with the
It's
Rangers
really
goaltending
possible.
situation,
Look,
like that's the only thing. We're talking about a short series here. It's pretty easy
Yeah.
to steal a game.
it's easy to steal a game, sure, absolutely, but I look at the rosters, and again, like you said, it's all on paper. It's all on paper. But between the two teams, even watching them throughout the season, like you said, one team had sent out a letter saying that we're sorry, we're selling off assets, and we're going to.
I'm sorry.
be
We're
bad.
what? We're what?
Selling off
We're
assets?
sorry, or are
Oh,
we
whatever.
sorry?
Can you not? Okay. Can you not? Is that racism? Is that?
No, you're from
Oh.
Canada. Relax. You're from
No.
Windsor, Ontario.
I'm from the whitest place in. Okay. Anyways, let's just cut that. Jesus Christ. Anyways,
Yeah.
hi. Yes. No, Carolina in 3. It's not even close in my mind. Anyways, I look at the roster, especially the defense.
They just wipe them up and down the floor.
Well, okay,
on paper
so-
here.
My Carolina, I don't like Peter Mrazek as a goalie. I'm a Wings fan. I didn't like him in
Well, we-
Detroit.
we
I thought
had
he was
him too,
shaky.
don't
Oh,
worry.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
yes.
So-
we saw some too. Don't worry.
He can go, but it's just not. I don't think he's a legitimate number one goalie.
Not a playoff goalie.
But with that defense in front of you, whether Dougie Hamilton is there or not,
I might be able to beat the Rangers with that defense.
that defense is ridiculous. And I think that the defense is going to absolutely shut down, whether it's Zibanejad or Buchnevich or Hedl. I don't care who has the puck. I don't think they're going to get much. So, Carolina in 3.
I think that's fair, and that brings us cleanly to the end of the East, and we will have to listen back to this and tabulate who we have playing who to set our brackets here, because they are going to be reseeding, and I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Moving across to the West here, and we start up top here with the 8-9 matchup, and I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. We got the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets. Who wants to start this one? Who's familiar with Calgary and Winnipeg here?
I like the Jets a lot. I follow them quite a bit.
Go for it. Yeah. Who do you
Let
have
Thrash
in
go.
this
I was going to say, if anybody else from the rest of our show was going to volunteer, it would probably be me, because I sit here all night and watch any game I can get my hands on.
All right.
Probably, so.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Jets. When they first came back into the league, I followed them day one. I was younger, obviously. I was younger, but like I
came back. You don't mean the Atlanta Thrashers? That wasn't.
yeah. See, I was a Thrashers fan though too. You know, it's just how it is. But
I mean, I kind of assumed given your name.
has nothing to do with that.
No,
believe it or not.
really? Okay.
No.
Interesting.
But
Is it more thrash metal? I don't.
yeah. So
okay.
very, very quickly, my name
Quick
used to be
detour.
used to be Ripper. I used to be Ripper on PSN for Call of Duty and whatnot. And I was listening to metal, and a girl started calling me Thrash because of the music I was listening to, and it just kind of stuck.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Detour. Okay.
Yeah,
back
I
to
apologize.
It's
Winnipeg.
all good.
I like the Thrashers. I didn't really follow them, but I like them. And I love their jerseys. But when they became the Jets again, I just started watching every game. And I still follow them. I won't say I watch every game now, but I do follow them quite a bit. I like the Jets, and I think the Jets are going to win the series.
So Patrick Laine or Austin Matthews?
They're different players, man. You got a center and a score. It's like comparing Ovi and Crosby.
I know, but I know
Right.
it's the debate. I know it's the debate out there, but okay. So did we get a number on games?
I'll say 5.
Wow, and
It's going to be.
Jets.
I think it's going to be a tight series for sure.
I agree. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a really good series to watch for sure. But I think the Jets pull it off for sure with Hellebuck and whatnot.
Well, there
I
it
think he's
is,
gonna
right
be,
there. You mentioned Connor Hellebuck, and I think
he's going to.
I think he's going to be a major difference in this series. Dom, what do you think here?
Yeah, so
Big
I
save-
was going to
big
go
save for you?
Calgary. I was going to go Calgary just for the fun of it. But now that you guys have mentioned, Hellebuck, I
How
love
insane
Laine.
he was this year.
Laine is one of my favorite players.
Man,
Man,
Scheifele, Wheeler, it just.
yeah,
Steelers, Connor.
Yeah,
they're deep. Yeah, I'm gonna go Winnipeg.
So the defense isn't what it used to be.
Right.
No, it's not.
Trust me, I know. Fantasy hockey. I know. Kyle can tell you about
Dustin
it.
Bufflin in fantasy hockey this
And then a week later, he decided not to play. Yeah, I think I'm
Sorry,
gonna go
we're not a
Winnipeg.
fantasy hockey podcast. but
Sorry,
something
yeah,
came
I
up.
just had to get it out
Dom traded assets for Dustin Bufflin about a week before he decided not.
No. I traded for him the year before at the deadline.
Right.
And
I'm
then-
sorry. You
And then
decided to keep him.
I kept him, and then I kept him, and then a
Right
week
after
later
the
he said,
keeper
well,
deadline, he decided
yeah,
not to play.
a week later, he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to play," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I actually had offers for him at that draft too, and I didn't take them. And Anyway, I have Winnipeg. I'm going to go Winnipeg in 4.
Winnipeg in 4. Okay. I'm not necessarily sure Calgary can only lose one game or can only win one game in that series. I think they have to win 2. I think that series is going 5. You know what? I'll jump in before Kevin gets his look here. I think this series goes long. I think Johnny Hockey is going to be playing motivated hockey after the pre-postseason he's had. He's been quite the topic of debate out in Calgary. I think he's going to light things up, and I think the Calgary Flames are going to win in 5. Kevin, what do you got here?
Who says we're not a fantasy hockey podcast? We could be. I've played
could be.
2. I
Listen,
played 2. I had.
We'll get into it. Okay.
Well, no. Hey, listen. I mean, I was just thinking about Winnipeg for a minute here, and I had to go check because I haven't actually followed what they're doing over the course of the 2 weeks. And I'm like,
I thought you were about to say you had to check your team to see what players are on it because I have completely forgotten everybody on my roster.
Our season just ended.
Oh, okay.
Our season was over on March 12th, like everybody else's was. No, but we had Brian Little for a long time, and he was out for a long time. I went back to check him, like, oh, he was said to be done for the year, so is he back? And he wasn't on the training camp roster apparently. But nonetheless, I've got for whatever reason as you were talking, I started to get more specifics in mind for my thinking on this series. Calgary's 2 best players in the series are going to be Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. No question about it, I think. I think they're going to be the 2 guys who are the best in the series. No, for Calgary, but I think Winnipeg's going to win the series.
I think Mark Giordano is super important for Calgary.
He is very important. I question, again, I kind of have a lot of questions about Calgary's goaltending in this one. Hellebuck's got the ability to steal games.
Winnipeg definitely has the edge in that.
I think that's the deciding factor.
Yeah. I just there's something about. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I look at that. I look at Calgary's goaltending and I say I just don't know. Rittich or Cam Talbot at this point, right?
And that's what wins you cups: goaltending and coaching.
Good old Cam Talbot.
Just something about right? Yeah, exactly. There's another one, right? We just went from one series talking about this to another.
Peter Mrazek.
Right? We went
Peter
from
Mrazek's in the playoffs.
Cam Talbot.
Cam Talbot's in the playoffs. Who's Mike McKenna playing for? Come on.
I was going to say Calvin Pickard. Actually, I know who Calvin Pickard's playing for. That's
why we got to keep bringing them up.
Oh, they're all former Wings too.
I was thinking, Kyle, you sat there and watched Calvin Pickard play a game against the Flyers for the Detroit Red Wings.
Listen, we both franchises have had some goaltending
goaltenders.
Issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
But listen, I don't need to hear any from you because you won cups with yours, Thrash. Listen, Osgood, you win.
Hasek.
You win.
Hasek, Mike Vernon.
Hey, you didn't get the best part of Hasek. Let's be clear.
No, but
he got the best part of us, so he got the cup.
He
got the cup.
That's
right.
Fair.
So
you could argue that Dominic Hasek's finest moment in the NHL technically came with the Detroit Red Wings because he won the cup.
That's fair.
All the other stuff, and nonetheless, back to the Winnipeg Calgary.
Back to Winnipeg Calgary. We do tangent a lot.
I do really like Winnipeg in this series. I love Laine as a player. I think he's going to be the sniper that Ovechkin is when Ovechkin's gone.
Basically,
if Ovechkin's done, that's going to be probably the guy who has that shot, who just where it's coming from every single time. But I love their depth. I love Scheifele. I think Scheifele's really underrated. Still, even though he gets some recognition, I still think he's underrated.
Him and Sean Couturier.
Kyle Connor's an excellent player.
Mark Scheifele, Sean Couturier, picked right next to each other, both super underrated. Still,
yeah, right. I mean, defensively, they're lacking on paper. They're definitely lacking on paper, but they've gotten where they are.
Their forwards are good defensively, right?
Yeah,
Scheifele's good. Wheeler's good.
Wheeler's very good.
Right. They have good defensive forwards, so their defense isn't completely on an island.
No,
it's not just Hellebuck and an island. You do have forward support.
And they're kind of like an old school team. Like, they're big and they're fast and they'll hit you.
Yeah. And they have a really, really good goalie.
Right.
Well, and it's why I've got to say 5 on this, because it's gonna be a physical series. It's gonna be exactly what you want it to be, and it's what you want a playoff series to be.
If Winnipeg clicks, they're built to make a run. Like they can absolutely, Hellebuck's there. You got your forward. Like they're absolutely built to make a run, and we've thought that they've been ready to burst through for the last 2 or 3 years now, and they haven't yet. But this might be the year.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good series. I say Winnipeg in 5.
How about a series that's not going to go 5? Because I certainly think, I'm just going to go first here. I certainly think Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers are going to run over the Chicago Blackhawks, and I do not believe the Chicago Blackhawks will take a single game. I believe that will be 3-0 Edmonton. I think Connor McDavid had 1 billion points in 70 games this year, and he just had 4 months off to get healthy, and he's going to be ridiculous. And it's just a matter of if literally anybody can stop him. Dom, let's start with you here after my little prediction. I got the Oilers in 3.
Okay. I like the Oilers in 3. I think Chicago stinks.
Yeah, just say it. There you go.
I mean, obviously McDavid and Draisaitl, and the matchup is what it is. I mean, Edmonton in 3.
Yeah, Chicago is here because
there's not much to say about Chicago,
and because they're a market, and because they get all the outdoor games, and because NBC loves Chicago.
There's just not much to say about Chicago.
Kevin, let's go to you here.
I'll tell you exactly where my mind's at right now. This has the biggest potential to be the shocker of the tournament.
I agree. For the record,
right?
And I say Edmonton in 3.
So we are all on board that it's 3-0, but we don't feel good about it. Thrash, what do you got here? Are you man enough to pull the trigger on the upset, or
okay?
What's going on?
So this is my thought process, and then I'm gonna give you my real answer. All right. Thought process: Chicago in 3. Chicago in 3.
Chicago in 3.
McDavid gets fed up, gets traded to Detroit for Justin Abdelgater, and we move on to next year.
Okay.
Just straight up. Just straight up.
No, one for one.
Wow.
Or Chicago loses in 3.
Or Chicago loses in 3, and we move on to next
Chicago
year.
wins in 3, and then the Oilers win Lafreniere.
Yeah, that's the other X factor.
I'll take that trade though. They can have Lafreniere if we can have McDavid.
Oh no,
I'll take that trade.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's how that works, right? Okay. You'll just get. Should they? Oh, they might need to even that up a little bit. Should they throw Leon in there too, just to square it up? Or there's a lot.
Abdelgater did have like a season where he almost scored a goal. So
think about how much McDavid and Draisaitl make. That kind of contract hit really takes it out of a team like Detroit. They should get rewarded for that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Abdelgater's only making $6 million to. What did he do?
What did anybody there do?
He has a long name, and that's something.
To have a long name that barely fits on the back of a jersey.
Yes.
I much prefer Martin Ferk.
I love Ferk.
Just nice 3 letters.
Nice 3-letter name.
Easy.
Christopher N.
Yep.
EHN. You guys are good at the 3-letter
You
name.
could have had Ferk and N on the same line, the Ferkin line. Like jeez. What could have been? Okay.
Sorry, that really tickled me. I don't know.
See, the other one that I heard that they said was the combination line was if you put Tyler Bertuzzi and Adam Ernie on the line.
Yeah, it's Bert and Ernie.
All right, so
I loved that. I thought it was great.
Thrash, do you have Chicago taking any games, or do you have Edmonton in 3?
I look at Chicago's roster. Chicago has good players on their team.
Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews.
But
Corey Crawford's in good shape.
It's if they do somehow take one, I'd be shocked.
Okay.
I'm going Edmonton in 3.
So we all have Edmonton in 3 here, but we all think there's a chance that Chicago just dominates them and steals this series. Got it.
Oh, it's definitely it's possible.
By the way, Kevin, this is my other 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver over Minnesota is not a series, is it? Come on. We'll start with you here. Come on. Vancouver, Minnesota?
Minnesota's an interesting one to me. I don't think they have a shot in the series. I think Vancouver's winning the series. I don't think it's a 3-0. I think it's a 3-1, probably. I say Vancouver, and I'm going to tell you Vancouver not for one reason, because it's going to be 2 different people, but I say you throw in Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, and I think that those 2 players are going to be really good.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Thrash, what do you got here?
Vancouver in 4, maybe 3.
Okay, that's about right for kind of all the same reasons Kevin just talked about, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's not much to add to it.
Vancouver is a good team, and Minnesota is not a good team.
Yeah,
It's just that simple.
It's unfortunate for Minnesota fans, but
their only chance is Devin Dubnyk brings back
who is very tall, and people seem to like tall goalies in the NHL 20.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the key, right? There you go.
You know what though? I'll throw in something else too. Jacob Markstrom had a really underrated year. And I think
Markstrom had a really good year.
Yeah, he did have a really good year, and I think that's gonna put them a little bit ahead in this.
Yeah, Devin Dubnyk has to regain his Vezina Trophy winning form for them to have a shot. Dom, what do you have in this series?
Yeah, Vancouver in 3. I love Matt Dumba, for Minnesota.
Is this a fantasy love?
No. Well, I like him. I like him in real life. I have him in fantasy, but that has nothing really to do with it. I think he's a really good defenseman. I think his points are down a little bit because he plays on a really, really bad PK. But yeah, I mean, Vancouver in 3. I mean,
okay.
Yeah,
I think that's about right. And we look at these series, and this is one of those ones where a lot of people are really counting Minnesota out, and I am also one of them. I also believe they were sellers at the deadline, weren't they? I know they were at least attempting to be. I also have Vancouver in 3 here. I know I made that pretty clear early on, but I just wanted to say it, officially. And then if Carolina, New York isn't the most fun series, I think it's going to be this one. I think Nashville, Arizona is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Dom, what do you have in this series?
Okay, so after the Flyers, my 2 favorite teams are Winnipeg and Nashville. I like
off the air. I'm going to ask you how you got there, but okay, sure.
Well, I'll tell you because I loved Laviolette. Obviously, he's not there anymore, but that's why I kind of gravitated toward Nashville.
We traded Wayne there. Them. Sure.
Yeah. Oh well, I was a fan before that, but
no, I know. We traded Scott Hartnell.
Obviously, another fantasy piece to it. I'm blanking on his name.
Love him.
Forsberg?
Yeah, Forsberg. Duh.
I know your fantasy team better than you do.
You do. It's been months.
Well, because I had Victor Arvidsson, so I knew you had the other one.
Oh, there you go.
Right. So I love Nashville. Obviously, Laviolette's not there anymore, but I'm gonna go Nashville in 4.
Okay. Thrash, you don't think it's going to be a fun series, huh?
I think Arizona's going to sweep Nashville.
You think Arizona is going to sweep
I think
Nashville?
Arizona's going to sweep Nashville. That's
Arizona,
a hot take.
3-0 over the Nashville Predators.
You got some March Madness in here.
No, I like
this. This is insane.
Love the Nashville Predators as a team, and I have for years, and they just don't do anything.
Right.
They
did make the Stanley Cup Final against the Pittsburgh Penguins just a couple of years ago.
Okay, and they didn't win. But I
guess
like
you're correct.
I like Nashville as a team. They have Ryan Ellis, former Spitfire. Love the guy. They have great players on their team, and they don't seem to ever put it together to make that. And yeah, they made it to the finals, absolutely. But they did not have like the best year this year compared to. You look at their team on paper; they should be way better than they are.
They're another team where goaltending is a little bit,
I mean, yeah,
Pekka Rinne has the job, but
yeah,
Jussi Saros isn't far behind.
Right.
So what do you got? You said you stick by Arizona in 3, huh?
I'm going Arizona in 3.
Phil
Kessel, Clayton Keller.
That Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That
OEL. I love OEL as a player. Absolutely love OEL.
Okay, Dom, what do you got here? You already went. I'm sorry, Kevin. Whew. Listen, it's been a long show, boys.
Yeah, this is
our last series, Kevin.
First of all, it's funny because I'm going to echo something that Dom said because of the fact that I have. If there's 2 Western Conference teams that I really like watching, it was the Winter Classic this year. It's Dallas and Nashville. I like both.
Nashville's a fun team to watch.
They were for years.
They could be a fun team to watch, and you just don't think they're going to win.
For the last couple of years, they were a really fun team to watch, and I've said on here before the Dallas thing was, and even Thrash will like this one because there's a Red Wings connection to it. My favorite player growing up was Mike Modano. So
okay.
Most random Red Wing of all time, but okay, yes, that's fine.
He was a random Red Wing.
He was a Red Wing.
And he was Michigan born, so you got to go there too. So, nonetheless, Nashville this year gave me big time Flyer vibes. in terms of being one of the most infuriating teams to watch for the talent that they have on paper. They should be better than they are.
Right. We talk about
By
Philip
a lot.
Forsberg, Victor Arvidsson, Matt Duchene.
I thought that team was, especially with the Duchene signing. Like
that was a big deal
line
for
up,
them.
and the thing was supposed to
Their
be
defense.
Duchene signed there. Everybody knew he wanted to go there, and it was supposed to be that he was going to be this player because he was in a place he wanted to be.
Yep.
And it didn't feel that way at all. I can tell you I suffered through Duchene on my fantasy roster for a long time this year, and sometimes chose not to play him in my starting lineup because of it.
I'm starting to look at Matt Duchene as a little bit of a rotten egg here. You look at every locker room he's been in, there's just something that stinks there. Colorado got better after he left. Ottawa got better after he left somehow. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying anything negative, but there's something about how he fits in NHL locker rooms that it's just not.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, see that being said, I love Philip Forsberg. I love Arvidsson. I love Roman Josi. I think Roman Josi is going to put up more of a fight than people think for the Norris this year.
He's
good. It's really close.
Yeah.
Always
Ryan
love
Ellis is there.
I've always loved Pecorine.
And
defensively they're really stacked even after the Subban trade. They're really stacked.
Does not get enough love.
Ekholm does not get enough credit. You're right. And Ellis is obviously very talented
from a defensive standpoint. Matthias Ekholm might be top 10 in the league. From a defensive standpoint, he's close. I think Ellis is even better though. That's the thing. Ellis is even better. I don't think you're wrong. I think they just happen to have two top 10 defensive guys in the league.
Because Yossi's the guy who is the hybrid. He can do both things. He's a good offensive defenseman, but he is translating
really well as the NHL is moving forward. He's right there.
And then, but Ellis gives you that balance and still offers that offensive side on occasion. Like he's
heaviest shot I've ever seen, Ryan Ellis.
Right, he's got he does have a very heavy shot.
And that's a team that had Shea Weber not that long ago.
Yeah.
There's so much that I love about that team. And here's the thing. I want to sit there and tell you it's going to be Preds in 3, honestly.
I still haven't gotten a prediction out of you.
No, I want to tell you it's going to be Preds in 3. Here's the X factor for me, though. Darcy Kemper was really good for Arizona this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really good. It's going to be a tougher series. On the surface, I want to tell you it was going to be a sweep. I think it's going to be much more difficult than this. I'm going to give it to the Preds, but barely. I'm going to say Preds in 5. And Kemper's going to be.
And when Kemper wasn't good, Ranta was good behind him.
Yeah, Kemper's going to be their guy, though. That's the thing. Kemper's going to be the guy,
but we talked earlier about Carey Price tweaking a knee and that blows the series. Arizona is probably the one team that can recover from that better than any other team. If Kemper goes down, Ranta is a perfectly acceptable option in a short series.
See, I was going to take that a different direction. I was going to tell you if there's any team that has the potential for it to happen because both goalies dealt with some form of an injury. That's the team that I can see. Here it comes. Like
I suppose Nashville could too. Yeah,
Nashville could too. But see, the thing about Nashville that I like about their 2 goalies also is that for years I thought Saros is one of those up and comers. I actually kind of am surprised that they've gotten to this point in the franchise where they can sit there and maybe make that transition from Rene to Saros, and that Saros hasn't gone somewhere else. Because I was starting to think that Saros was going to be the guy who knew he had the capability to start and wanted to play where he could get starter time.
Grubauer himself out. Yeah.
Yep. I was starting to think that. So they've actually made that transition really well. They don't. One of the things
they've
that's
kept
surprising,
him under control.
Well, they have, but here's the thing: they don't even know who's starting in this series. Like you would probably think.
You would think
that it was going to just be Rene, but I could see Saros even starting this playoff. I mean, I really could. He got a little bit more. He got a little bit more in terms of the the longer leash sometimes than Rene did. All of a sudden, and you know what? The coaching change may factor into that too. Once you switch coaches,
Kevin,
maybe a guy gets,
You and I had a talk on last week's show about the round robin games being pretty laid back for the teams that made it. They can take them as seriously as they want. Obviously, these teams are all pushing, but I think where this will really show itself is in the exhibition games.
Because I definitely want to see these.
The Flyers play the Penguins. Carter Hart shouldn't start that game. I don't think. Unless he needs the reps, you might play him for a little bit, but I don't think Carter Hart should stay in that game very long at all. And I think you're going to see a lot of that when playoff teams are facing qualifier teams in these exhibition games. And I don't know how many of them there are. I haven't looked at the full schedule.
Well, here's what I'll say. For the exhibition, the exhibition from the Flyer standpoint, I'd split them. I'd say give each guy half.
Because I think the Penguins are going to be pushing because they're trying to get into playoff shape is what I'm saying.
2 days ago, I would have told you don't play Carter Hart, period. But now that if he feels okay, I say split it and don't overdo it, but don't undervalue the possibility of playing both of them for 30 minutes either. You know,
Okay.
That being said, I do really want to see how teams look in these games. And one of the things I said on the air on the station a couple of days ago when I was on is that this playoff approach, you used to have it where, you know, it was who's the guy, you know, and I think you're starting to stray away from the days of here's Dominic Hasek, here's Ed Belfour, here's Marty Brodeur, here's Henrik Lundqvist, here's these guys who everybody knows they're starting the duration of the playoffs. This year in particular is going to be a big year for the tandems. If you have two who you can rotate, and I even said when it came to Carter Hart and Brian Elliott, if Carter Hart wins you 2 games in a row in a best of 7, and that game 3 maybe is not as big of a deal. Like if you lose it or you feel like you have a shot with the backup to steal it, then play Brian Elliott, give Carter Hart a day. And
I think you do this in the first round. I don't think you really consider that further along we go. But
once you're a month into this, then I think you can.
Right. We'll see where we're at once we get there. But either way, I'm talking about these exhibition games because I wanted to talk about the fact that Nashville might decide who starts for them after their exhibition game. And the same with the Rangers. The Rangers might have Lundqvist play a period, Shesterkin play a period, Georgiev play a period, and say whoever wins. There you go. Like
that's gonna get really interesting because I don't think they're actually even allowed to do that. I believe it's still 2 goalies.
Is it still okay? Well, because it's an exhibition game, they might let you do that because they let you do that in the preseason sometimes, don't they? Do they let you carry 3 in the preseason?
No, it's they're gonna let 1 extra forward, 1 extra defenseman. But
they're not letting an extra goalie dress?
I think it's 2 goalies. I think it's still 2 goalies. But
well, then I suppose they won't, and we'll know who their 2 goalies are at that exhibition game. But
I'd love to see who's dressed for it.
Right. Going back to this Nashville, you know, if UC Saros outplays Pekka Rinne, if he could very well steal the job, and that might change the series. So let's get a prediction out of you here because we still haven't gotten one. We've gotten
no. I end up saying I think I said Preds in 5.
Oh, you said Preds in 5. So
I said I wanted to go Preds in 3 at first, but then the more I think about it, I think Kemper's going to draw this out more, and I think it's Preds in 5, and I think it's quite honestly that 5th game, Kemper might be stealing it for half of it at least, and then something might change later. So
you're seeing a big dramatic game 5 here.
Oh yeah, I think this is close. Oh, I think. For a 6-11, it's closer than a lot of people think.
Which is really funny because we're looking at these two at both sides of this bracket here, and I pointed out both 6-11 matchups as the most fun. Mm-hmm. It's funny how that works. But I'm looking at this series, and we have Kevin's got Nashville in 5. Dom, you also had Nashville in 5, correct?
4.
Or you had Nashville in 4. I'm sorry, and then Thrash had Arizona in 3.
Yes.
I like a lot of what Kevin has to say. I think Kemper holds for game 5, and I think Arizona takes a game 5 there, and I think it's an incredible series. I think this is the kind of thing, if you can get Arizona residents to watch this series, I think you're going to win Arizona a lot of hockey fans. I think it's going to be a fun, entertaining series, and I think you're going to get a lot of hockey fans in Arizona if they win that series in a dramatic game 5. So that'll actually do it. That's actually all our predictions. We're going to have Mike go through here and tally everything up and have him write out who picked what for who, because I certainly don't remember who I picked for anything. Sorry, go ahead, Dom.
Really quick. The funny thing about the 6 and 11 seeds, they're only like a game or 2
points
apart. Yeah,
the points margin is not that far.
It's not something crazy where 11 seed beats a 6 seed. Like
for sure, and that's why the NHL ended up going with the format they did, because these are teams that could have theoretically made the playoffs if they had played the last 12 games. That was kind of the
Detroit should have been in this. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, I saw them from the press box on Black Friday, and they were already eliminated from the playoffs by then. So, and then the Flyers beat them 6-0 or whatever, 5-1, something like that.
Now, hold on a minute there too, because I will say about both
the Flyers were bad.
Both games the Flyers played against them.
The Flyers didn't look good.
It was 2-1 Flyers late in the second period before final, and that was 1 goal in the last minute and 2 in the first 2 minutes of the third period.
Detroit this year.
That's right. And then even when the Flyers made the trip to Detroit, it's a 3-0 game took until the second period, midway through the game, for any goals to be scored. It was not exactly a work
Detroit
of
was
art.
sweaty. They were a bad team, but I was always sweating when we were hurting on them.
It always is.
I just want to point something out, though. Detroit swept Montreal this year. Didn't lose a single game to Montreal.
They should have their spot in the play-in.
We should be playing there. Montreal should have the 4th pick, and then when we lose in the first round, we should get number 1.
Oh, okay. So that's not quite up there with trading Connor McDavid for Justin Abdelkader, but it's pretty close.
So we're still are we all still holding out for the fact that for the Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Arizona losses in the qualifiers? So they're all
just for lottery.
So they all
lottery?
So all 3 of them, take out the other 5 teams that are going to lose. So just that all 3 of them have 33% odds to get the first pick because that's the way it's going to go.
Oh yeah, it'll just be those 3.
No, it'll go to Pittsburgh, it'll go to Edmonton, or it'll go to Taylor Hall.
Have a chance.
Can you imagine the
Minnesota
outrage?
Doesn't have a chance.
The outrage if Edmonton gets number 1.
Can you imagine the outrage if Minnesota gets them? He just goes to the middle. This is why
I said
it's Minnesota, somewhere a small hockey market.
This is why I said it's 33% odds for Pittsburgh, Edmonton, and Taylor Hall.
Yep, and Taylor Hall.
I'm not even counting the whole team. I'm just saying it's Taylor Hall.
So Taylor Hall has to sign with whoever gets the first overall pick.
He doesn't have to sign with whoever gets it. It's just whoever.
No, he's on Arizona.
It's whoever's team he's on at the time of the lottery happening.
Okay,
that's what it'll be. He doesn't have to sign.
But either way, that brings a wonderful conclusion. I think we got a lot of really good predictions in here, and I think, man, these playoffs are going to be a lot of fun. And I do want to talk a little bit about the NHL presentation.
Yes,
because the NHL came out and announced. They basically announced that they're really running with this. They're not just doing the same normal TV angles and hey, look, here's your normal hockey game. There just happens to be no fans. They've decided that they're going to attempt to create a viewing experience. Yeah. There's going to be seat coverings with, little ads, and there's going to be screens everywhere. And they've talked about the fact that you're going to see new camera angles because most stadiums are the camera placement is decided based on, where you're not going to block fan views and stuff. And they've talked about the fact that they don't have to worry about that. They can get 360 coverage. They don't have to worry about blocking a single fan view. And it's going to be fun. They're going to be playing home goal horns and home goal songs. And it's going to be good. Kevin, what are you excited for here?
I'm excited for, I'm excited for hopefully more mic'd up action. I would like to hear a little bit more. I would like to see that. I'd love to see. I mean, it's going to be really hard for me to do this now because I want to watch the exhibitions and see what this is going to mostly look like. But
and we'll get our first chance when the Flyers play the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Right, and I think I think hopefully the visuals that we're talking about, these video boards that look like they're going to be hanging from the side or off to the side, like opposite of where the usual broadcast camera is, that should be in camera sight. I would hope. Yeah, is going to be something interesting. The goal horn thing, I'm not saying it doesn't do much for me. It's a good touch. I'm saying what I'm saying about it is that it's not that it's minor. They've done that before for global series games where both teams have their thing. Right. Like they've done that for neutral games before. So that's not really something that feels new to me.
Special,
right? Like it doesn't feel as special. That's not really something that's complex. I'm curious about this. It was supposed to be done. What they're trying to replicate with this camera angle, from what I heard, is it was supposed to be that what they wanted to do was have drones in there that had drone cameras.
That would be great,
and the league did not get clearance to do it because they aren't going to fly something like that inside. Yeah. So what they ended up doing is it's this camera that is like
is it like the NFL end-to-end string camera?
It's not like that either. About? It's on it's almost a crane operated camera. So they put them in the corners, and it's these things you see at concerts where they're trying to get that pan shot that just
the
cuts
big
across.
Boom arm camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to how that'll look. The NHL has tried.
It's going to look like playing a video game. You're going to be able to get perspective when somebody's taking it up the ice.
The NHL has tried over the course of the last several years on national broadcasts, some different angles. They've moved that rotating camera that usually sits at the penalty box that's right at center ice. They've moved
the one from World Juniors.
That
camera.
I think they have used it in World Juniors, but I also believe it was for
The
a
one
little
that got
while they
hit this
experimented
year in
with it
World
in the
Juniors, it was a
NHL
whole
on
thing.
like national broadcast, and it didn't work for me. I didn't like it moved down. I like it in the center there, or I like it behind the net, but that semi thing. So maybe, hopefully, this, if it adds more perspective, I think they've used them before for outdoor games.
Yeah,
For
I think I
Stadium
remember
Series games, they've used them, and
certain
that's
things,
not
yeah.
half bad because you can get the perspective shot from over the top more.
Yeah.
Not like the way it was on the side just didn't work. Like you were
Man,
cutting off a certain part of the rink.
I would have loved to see drones. I wonder if we see drones at the next outdoor game, whenever that
would be
happens to
interesting.
be.
I could see.
Like, I'm curious if you're outside, if you can get clearance in a football stadium to fly a couple of drone cameras. You might be able to.
Yeah, so that stuff will all be interesting. That's the stuff I'd like to see. I'd like to see how they incorporate anything else into the broadcast with these visuals. Like, I know they're not doing player tracking or puck tracking yet, but maybe you do something that adds to the statistics of it. Start, just display, like use that as your displays instead of trying to overlay into the actual broadcast, whether it's on NBC or whatnot. Maybe they'll play around with that a little bit. I don't know. But definitely one thing I do like, and I think maybe because I've watched a couple of other events that have varied between this, the covering of the seats in the arena to utilize that for a logo of some kind or something like that. I think the NBA has done this a little bit and MLS has done this, and it looks really good. Some baseball stadiums have done it and some have not. And the outfield seats in a baseball game that are completely wide open look a little weird.
Yeah,
because I almost can't track. Maybe because something is actually going to fly into that in baseball, it's a little hard to track sometimes.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about looking over to the stands very often.
Right. I'm glad that, and I guess maybe because it's neutralized is the reason you'll do this, but I'm glad that they're not, after a couple days of looking at it, the cardboard cutout thing looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think that just covering the seats is better. I think using the visuals to maybe pump in, hey, we got a bunch of this team's fans on Zoom or something.
That'd be cool.
Or something like that. That would be kind of cool because it's a visual thing. It makes it real.
Gritty will be there.
Maybe. I don't know.
Come on.
Oh, on the screen, yes.
On the screen.
Yes, on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't think he's essential personnel.
No.
By the way,
I think he'd argue that.
Yeah, he would argue that for sure. Well, he sat there waiting at the start of Phase 3 training camp, and Kevin Hayes drove by and called him a legend. And said,
I'm sure there's a very sad video that will be posted on Flyer social media at some point today of him trying to get on the plane and waving goodbye. I'm sure it's coming.
I sure hope he was there to send them off at the airport.
I'd be willing to bet he probably was. The Flyers PR. Zach Hill's pretty good on that.
And by the way, something that we mentioned off the top of the show before we go to the presentation from the other two on here for a minute, the rosters.
Okay, did we get a live update here?
We did not, and here's why.
Okay.
Bill Meltzer just tweeted this out in response to somebody who was wanting to hear about it and said, the NHL is announcing the rosters, not the teams, and the belief is that the rosters will not be finalized until the league's next COVID update.
Okay.
So once they know that everybody who was going tested negative, then they'll release the rosters to tell you that everybody who you see listed has cleared.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's who's coming. So that's what they're trying to do, I guess. So I think they're waiting on feedback from everybody.
That's a great update.
They're waiting for results. And that's a really good way to do it, I guess. If you're going to go into a bubble and you're trying to keep it out of the bubble, then make sure everybody doesn't have it before they travel.
Before you tell people that they're in the bubble, make sure.
Right. Why don't you make sure that they're good?
They're clear.
And obviously, there's going to be interest in this because of the fact that you may not take somebody on day one who you're waiting to get that negative from, or you're waiting for something to heal up, and then they're coming later and someone else. Like, there's still moving parts to this even after they get there. It's just a matter of you've got to go through the protocol the right way. So I respect that, especially when you consider, like, just as I'm browsing here, and it's not hockey related at all, but apparently the Phillies who are playing the Marlins today, the Marlins starter just got scratched after testing positive. So
at 12:07.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Just like baseball's got that on their hands, and hockey is like sitting on, hey, we haven't had any all week, and we're not releasing rosters until we know that they're all negative.
Well, you know what? As we sit here, preseason games start in 2 days. The teams are on their way to the bubble. We just made our playoff predictions. There's really not much more we can do.
No, I mean,
except sit back and watch some hockey.
Well, I was saying, I did want to potentially hear from the others on the presentation aspect.
Yeah,
that they're looking forward to watching, but otherwise.
Dom, have you seen any of that stuff? Any of what the NHL is planning on doing? I think it's going to make it definitely a fun viewing experience.
I haven't seen anything, but yeah, I mean,
I will encourage you to look up the mock-up because it does look
really
cool.
cool.
Well,
Yeah, it does look really cool.
I saw that, not to get too much into it, but I saw that, like, even basketball, like, the NBA has, like, this screen that goes around the actual, like, court, and it has, like, at different times actually has fans cheering.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of the digital fans.
Yeah,
but
no. Well, it's not digital. They're real people. But for basketball, I think it works. For hockey, I don't think that would work out too well.
Yeah.
Unless you put them in front of boards in real life and they're just banging on the glass.
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool.
But I don't know.
Rink.
I'm pretty interested in seeing how the players approach there being like no fans or
right.
It'll be interesting to see some energy levels.
Right. Because even in baseball, like, I don't know. I mean,
Did you just talk about energy levels and go straight to baseball?
Right. Like I don't think it's really affecting them that much because the last 10 years.
Their audience is asleep anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but they literally have a whole thing dedicated to them stretching.
Oh, it's bad.
So yeah,
someone had a good tweet yesterday because with all the cardboard cutouts behind the Phillies game, they were
I actually don't mind it.
No, but someone turned and said these are totally fake fans. You know how we know? No one's on their phone.
Right.
Oh god.
Like that was such
very true.
Pretty good. It's a true line.
No one's drinking beer in Ashburn Alley is the more correct answer for the Phillies.
Well,
teams.
no, that's the part that everybody should miss is that no one's out having a couple beers at a game or having a whatever, having a cheesesteak, whatever.
Especially with the NFL, like if some stadiums or all stadiums are allowed to like let some fans in, like how is that going to work? Like, you know how many people get like absolutely wasted at an Eagles game? Like,
yeah,
like they're not going to be able to do that. Like, I don't know. I actually don't mind the cardboard cutout for baseball because you're watching the game and like you don't usually look at the fans behind home plate.
You don't notice it until something weird happens.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
you notice it when something weird happens.
Right. They're like kind of in the background where it's like you're not looking at them, but you can see it, and it kind of with like the way
I think that's what having those screens is going to do. Is going to give you something to kind of look at in the background. It's going to keep things kind of.
You don't really notice it unless you really look. And I think with the way that baseball is doing it, where like the stadium is playing cheers and boos and whatever, I think you don't really notice it until somebody hits a fly ball to center field or right field or a home run, and you don't really notice.
Yeah.
You don't really catch it until
until you have reason to.
Right.
No, but before we get to Thrash's opinion on the presentation real quick, I do want to point out in terms of stadium capacities and stuff, Edmonton has announced that they're going to be doing drive-in viewing parties.
That sounds like a great idea.
They're going to be, I can see them doing something in Philly where they play it on that big Xfinity screen, and you can come and park and pay $10 or $20 or whatever it is, and you park and watch the game in a parking lot full of Flyers fans, all in your own car.
I know, and
that way you stay socially distant, you stay pretty safe, and I mean traffic's going to be a nightmare,
right?
But you get to watch the game with some level of community, and I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I
know that Citizens Bank Park is doing something like that for the Phillies for like they're doing concerts and stuff like that. So I don't know how that's
a lot of people are,
it's
right.
It's really
I don't know how they're going to go about it. I don't know how it works. I mean, maybe you guys know a little bit more than me, but
it's basically just that you drive up, you pay, you watch the thing.
What it is also is that for these drive-in things is that you'll drive in, you'll park your car in one spot. The space next to you is reserved for you as well because you can set up your stuff outside. And then they're putting a barricade up to the spot next to that, so you're not even dealing with that spot.
They're all individual
and then
stalls,
the next car
basically
shows up behind.
To me, it sounds like a mess. It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
I think it's going to be better than it. Think about it. Because you have to space cars out, you can only fit about half as many cars as your normal parking capacity.
Yeah, you're only doing about a third worth of the cars. Yeah.
Again, traffic is still going to be a nightmare. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take 2 hours to leave.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare even if there is a game.
Exactly. In terms of what kind of traffic you're putting in the city, or
it's not going to be much different.
It's not more dangerous than a game. It can't be because everyone
it's going to be less than that. Probably
theoretically, everyone driving is sober. Theoretically, I know how Philly works, but like theoretically,
that might be the one negative you have is that they can't control when you start.
Yeah.
But they can anyway because you can go in the parking lot and chug 12 more.
That's true. Yeah, people who leave a game are
right.
I've seen it. I've walked out of that arena at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, and there's still people hanging in the parking lot.
People are always going to show up to a sporting event, drink too much, and drive home. It's always going to happen, and it's not. the team can't market that.
Yeah.
Circling back, Thrash, what do you think about these promotional images? What do you think about what the NHL is going to do in terms of presentation style here moving forward in the playoffs?
I love what I've seen already. I think it looks awesome, and if they execute it, it's going to be great. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not concerned about it as much as other people, I think. And I think the reason for that is I watch a lot of junior hockey.
So you watch a lot of no-fan hockey already.
Well, yeah, there's and think about the World Junior. Think about the World Juniors. As a hockey fan, Kazakhstan versus, say, Latvia.
Turkey. Yeah.
Sure.
Nobody's
at that game. Nobody's at that game, but
Right.
I still watch it. People still watch the game. It doesn't make a difference.
Right.
You don't think about it then. You're thinking about it now because it's like
Hockey's
it's
still hockey.
It's different. Yeah, hockey's hockey. And I look at like WWE or AEW wrestling companies. They've been doing this.
It's been pretty bad. I'm not going to lie.
You know what? I got used to it. The first like 3 weeks, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But now I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's not that bad.
I fell off the train. It got pretty bad for me.
I don't watch a lot of wrestling.
There are World Junior Championship games, not the finals, obviously, but like the group play games where if the U.S. is playing at 9:00 in the morning in Canada somewhere, there's next to nobody at that either.
Yep.
If it's U.S. against Slovakia at 9:00 in the morning, there's nobody at that game if it's not in the U.S.
The team's families are there, and that's about it.
And I'll put it on if there's somebody in there who I want to get a look at. So I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with it as much as a lot of other people. And I think that's one of the reasons why. As somebody who I had season tickets to the Spitfires, and I had them before the Spitfires were a decent team winning Memorial Cups at this old arena where maybe 300 people would show up. And I loved it. And I would still watch the games on TV when I was a kid. And I loved it. It didn't make a difference. The goal horn would go off. I didn't pay attention to the fans. I didn't care. It didn't make a difference to me.
I'm freaking out because the goal was scored, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, especially if we're watching the game with somebody. If you're watching the game alone, maybe you're a little bit like, okay. But if you're with somebody, you can celebrate, you can still enjoy it, and you can talk about the game. It's going to –
Sure.
I'm not nearly as concerned with the viewing aspect, although I do think what they're doing with it looks awesome.
You mentioned watching games with people, and that actually leads me really nicely into a little plug here. So next week's show, we run into a little bit of a dilemma here because the Flyers play on Tuesday. They play their exhibition game. They play their first pre-playoff game, pre-postseason game next Sunday against the Boston Bruins at 3 p.m. Now, we normally record before 3 p.m. on Sunday. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to, watch the game with friends a little bit here. And right after the game, you can jump on and we are going to attempt to stream this podcast live. We're going to attempt to record it live on Zoom, broadcast that on our social media, on Twitch, on Facebook, wherever we can. And we would like to invite you guys to join us for that broadcast. I'm not sure who it'll be. I know I'll be here. I believe Kevin has said that he will be available.
Yep.
We're going to attempt to get other people. But we are going to attempt to do a live show following next week's game, and we're going to record our podcast as normal live. We're talking about trying to set up a voice line so people can call in, but you'll have to tune in for that. And make sure to follow our social media at YWT Podcast all over for details as the week goes on when and where you can find that. Before we get out of here, Kevin, you got any last things, and then hit us with your social media here for the fans.
Sure thing. I mean, I don't really have much on last minute things, I think, but the only thing I've got to say is that we've waited a long time for this. And here's the thing: I sat down the other night. The Sixers had a scrimmage on Friday. It was on. It was nice to have it on. I've watched live baseball for the last 3 days at different points throughout the day. I'm not sitting here saying I'm doing it the way I would watch hockey, but it was on. And it was nice to get excited about something. Yesterday, the Phillies won
live,
with 4 home runs.
A game you haven't seen before.
And I'm getting popped up about it because it's finally real. It's live. It's happening.
It's a game you haven't seen before, and it counts.
Right, exactly. And, well, that was the difference between the Sixers one. I kind of sat there and was like, this is nice, but it's a scrimmage. It doesn't count for anything.
Even Tuesday's game, it'll be good.
Right, even Tuesday's game, if it has an intensity level, that's good. And we're going to be getting a feel for what everything's going to be like presentation-wise. So that should be really good.
Yeah.
The fact that we're talking about the fact, here's Tuesday, 3 games, Wednesday, 6, Thursday, 3 more. Let's bring it on. Let's have, let's have some fun with it. And you know what? As much as I'm looking forward to Tuesday because the Flyers are on and they're the first game back against Pittsburgh, no less, I'm really looking forward to the idea of Wednesday being a day where I'm going to just wake up, start the day at 12 o'clock, and go right on up until 10:30 at night and just have a bunch of games on. It's going to be fun.
That's how I'm looking at Sunday, because Sunday is the first day that like playoff, like the qualifier games actually start and count.
Yep.
And there's a game at 12, 3, 4, 8, and 10:30. So I know what I'm doing all day on Saturday.
Exactly. So, and to finish off my whole thing, because you told me because you told me to do the plugs and all that stuff too. So on Twitter at Kevin_Durso. For personal, like as my personal one, you'll see me tweeting throughout the Tuesday's game, no question about it. On Twitter over at Flyerdelphia will be the general one. The graphics
you'll be active on Tuesday.
The graphics are ready, Kyle. I do not have an Andy Andrioff graphic for a reason.
Nate Thompson?
Nate Thompson's in.
Okay.
Got him. Derek Grant, got him. All these guys.
You got this guy. You got this guy, right?
Ivan Provorov?
It sure is, Ivan.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it sure is your Conn Smythe winner, Ivan Provorov.
Well, and it was really interesting because I went into the folder that has all of them created, and I just started – basically I pulled everybody who I know is not on the not playing list.
Right.
So I left Nolan Patrick in said folder.
Vorobiev.
I left Vorobiev's probably getting deleted.
He should be. He went back to the KHL.
Well, because he's not on the roster anymore.
Right.
And Sam Moran is in that folder. But even but in light of everything this week, going back to tie it all back to the beginning, even Oscar Lindbaum came out of that folder.
Oh baby!
I had to.
Baby,
if there's a shot, I'm leaving him in. I'm leaving him in there. So
he's
we'll
got
see
the
what
graphic
happens.
prep just in case.
Well, I was lucky. We had the Lindblom one anyway, which is good, and it was getting put to fair use. Pretty early on in the year, he was
leading the team in
with
goals.
Regularity. He was leading the team in goals. It was great, but pretty much everybody's dusted off and ready to go. So it's there, and I will plug this as well. Chances are, I don't know it. Like I can't confirm it yet. I have to wait to hear from them, but. The 97.3 ESPN is going to start doing shows that are building into the game coverage. So
that's awesome.
So Tuesday's game is on the station at 4 o'clock. I'm going to say I probably will be on in the 3 o'clock hour, probably close to 3:30, and I'll lead. They'll have me on to lead in.
We'll make sure that everybody's following your Twitter at Kevin_.
Right, I tweet about it all the time, and if you guys
Flyerdelphia, at Sports Talk Philly.
Yep.
You're on 97.3 ESPN. You're at sportstalkphilly.com as well. You're everywhere.
So their whole thing at the station right now is, I'm bringing back tomorrow during their main show. I record a minute, and it's like your minute update on the Flyers, and our other writers do the same for some of the other sports. But I record the Flyer minute. So I'm bringing that back tomorrow because there's actually a reason to bring it back.
Beautiful.
Never thought I would be doing one in late July, but I'm doing one in late July nonetheless. And then their new segment, they've shifted some of the scheduling around. Mostly it's national programming. Their 2 to 6 show is remaining what it is, and 6 to 7, or I guess on game days, depending on how it's going to go. I don't really know completely, but they're doing what they're calling game night now. And basically, game night is going to turn into whatever game is coming on after the show, whether it's a Flyers game or a Sixers game during the playoffs.
It's a preview show for it.
It will be a preview show, and probably so. In other words, you'll probably hear me on Flyers nights and our Sixers guys on Sixers nights. But apparently, I'm going to be a huge part of this, and
that sounds awesome.
So definitely look for that. I mean, it's
a lot of 97.3 time.
Well, it cracks me up because I've got, like I said, Tuesday probably going to have something. Can feel like I can safely assume that. And then the first round robin game is a Sunday, and I'm going. There's no original programming on Sunday, so they'll broadcast the game. Don't get me wrong; the game is going to be on the station, but there will be
the third round
else.
robin game. By the way, the third round robin game is also on a Sunday.
No, it's not. Sorry.
I'm sorry. They moved it.
They moved it. We didn't mention that. They moved it.
That.
So the game against Tampa is no longer on the 9th. It's on the 8th now. So they're moving that up a day. I don't know why. There was no reason.
And they still haven't announced times for the second or third games.
And they have not announced times because they're waiting to see how many playoff qualifying round games there are.
Sounds good.
On those dates. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But we'll see what happens once we know times for those other 2 games, which we will hopefully be able to tell everybody about when we record next, because hopefully when next Sunday's show happens, we have a little bit more information.
We should at that point. So make sure you get Kevin at Kevin_Durso and at Flyerdelphia for your Flyers covered heading into the playoffs. Dom, what do you have to plug here? Your personal Twitter?
Yeah, just my Twitter.
There you
I
go.
do a lot of sports takes. Not just
yeah.
Flyers, but
You have an Etsy store, or,
I don't.
an OnlyFans like Thrash here, like yeah.
I might jump on that. Yeah. No, my Twitter.
Hey, listen, with that mustache, go for it, buddy.
Hey, I'm the playoff beard in quotations.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my personal Twitter's at Dom Console. Yeah, I don't have as many plugs as
No, we sandwiched you in the middle here because I know Thrash has a whole YouTube channel and stuff to plug, but he's doing way better than we are anyway.
The only other thing I have to say is let's go Flyers.
Let's go Flyers. I'm into it. All right, Thrash, what do you got here? We know you got the Twitter, we got the Twitch. You're a Guitar Hero streamer sometimes. But you did actually just you are attempting to go full time at the moment. Is that correct?
I am. Yeah, I took 2 weeks off just to see how it goes and whatnot, and so far it's been really, really good. So we'll see when the new game comes out how I feel. And
that's over on Twitch at Thrash94Gaming on Twitch.
Yes, that's everything is Thrash94Gaming. I even got the YouTube messaged me, and I got the URL for that now as well. So it used to be random letters and crap.
Oh yeah, everybody gets the random letters until you get yourself a little bit of a base here.
Yeah, they gave me the official URL for that.
YouTube.com/Thrash94Gaming.
Yes.
So people can find you there now, right? If you just type in youtube.com/Thrash94Gaming.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Also on Twitter, also on Twitch. What's your schedule over on Twitch?
Right now, anytime. Is doing the full-time thing. I'm just trying different hours. Usually 3:30 to about 6, playing NHL and getting my ass handed to me. But opening lots of packs. So.
Now, is that going to shift at all when the playoffs start? Are you going to be streaming during games? Or?
I might stream while watching the games and just play NHL and react to the games.
And just do a reaction thing.
That's
good for Guitar Hero.
Yes.
Hang out, play a song, watch some hockey.
Exactly. I don't exactly know what I'm going to be doing, but. I'm just super excited for hockey to be back. Let's be real.
I think we all are. And that's actually a really great note to take it out on. Thrash, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Dom, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin, you're always here. But thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it'll be exciting to be back next week when we have hopefully we get everything to go off with the live show.
That'll do it. Yep. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll make sure to follow our socials at YWT Podcast. Or just search You Would Think the Philadelphia Flyers podcast everywhere, and we'll show up. We're on sportstalkphilly.com. Make sure to follow them at sportstalkphilly on Twitter. And until next week, which may or may not be live, we will talk to you later. And 2 days until hockey. Let's go Flyers. Flyers, Penguins. Here we go. See you guys.